Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today's guest is Bianca Halenga, and she is the founder and a practitioner at Liberated Heart Empowered Soul. Bianca, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Adam. I'm glad to be here with you and Mission Matters.
All right, Bianca. So we got a whole lot to talk about today. So we're going to talk about tapping into the subconscious and higher self for lasting shifts. But also, I wanted to bring up, first off, I know Juliana referred you over to us, which we've been working to promote the SRQ Women Expo, and it's been a lot of fun doing interviews for her and for the Expo. First off, are you excited for the Expo? Like, when is it coming up?
Oh, yes, I'm very excited. And it's coming up this Saturday and Sunday. This weekend on the 27th and 28th.
And I understand that you're going to have a booth there so people that are listening to this can come on by and things like that. What's going to be at your booth? Like, what's going on there?
Well, I will be showcasing my services, and I will also be offering mini readings and sessions and on the booth during the event.
Awesome. All right, good. So then people that are going by and they're listening to this, they can stop on into your booth. And I guess just going a little bit further here. So I want to go a little bit into your background. So when I saw the topic originally, so tapping into the subconscious, where did all that begin for you? Like, how did you get involved and where did all this start?
Well, when I was little, I always had a fascination about everything that was beyond what we could really see. But it wasn't until I had my first child that some things came to light in my family of origin in regards to some patterns that were at play, and I was seeing them play out between my grandmother and my mother. And just for the record, they live in Europe, or they lived, and I moved overseas. So I wasn't really close to them throughout the years that I had moved over. So it was, I guess, easier for me to notice that after they had visited and were showing these patterns or like belief systems and trying to like enforce that on how I was parenting or at least showing up for my newborn baby. And it really got me questioning. Like it rocked me, as we all look up to our parental figures. And even though as we get older, there still will be some of that remaining in regards to how we show up in the world, and are we kind of showing them right? Like, did we do right by our parents?
Yeah.
But yeah, so as they left, I really started looking into like how I felt based on the things that they shared with me when I was taking care of my child, and they were saying, oh, you shouldn't do it that way. Or if you do that, you're manipulating, or he's going to learn to manipulate you, or you're a bad parent. And so I really went deep within as after they left and started trying to like understand.
When you say, even when you were little, I kind of want to stay there a little bit longer. When you said you noticed patterns or things, or you were just curious, even when you were little, like, what do you mean by that? I'm curious.
I guess you could say the things that were taught, they didn't ring true. I found that a lot of it was coming from like a fear-based. It didn't feel right. And I was also very interested in like a metaphysical concept. So I was reading about that, plus seeing how my family of origin was like approaching topics in life. And it just, there didn't seem to be any coherence.
And so, as you mentioned, after you're first born, and then you're having this other type of connection with your family, like what are the patterns, or what are the things that they brought up to you that you started to resonate with when you're like, maybe, and I'm using this word you didn't, but maybe getting some clarity. Like, what are those patterns, or what was that like?
So my grandmother was saying I was a bad mother, and I literally had right before they came, when I had my son in the hospital, there were some things happening that I was also like being questioned in regards to how I was approaching things. And being a new mom with all the hormones surging, like it all starts kind of like becoming a little bit intense, and you don't know what to believe, and you listen to what other people say more. Like you're very vulnerable, in a very vulnerable state. And so when my grandmother was saying that, like, I'm a bad mother, it kind of started having me remind my youth, Like I was also reprimanded for things that made me believe I was a bad child, like I wasn't pleasing them or I wasn't doing the things acceptable to them or what they believed was right. And so I was struggling with that, the pattern of not being good enough. And I just traced it back more into my childhood, and from as early as I could remember, the feeling of not being good enough, like doing something and it's setting off my parents or my mother particularly, and she could be pretty intense in the way she would be reacting. And from a child's perspective, it feels like, oh, like I'm not good enough in my parents' eye. And when we look at our parents, it's like they are our world. So I feel that it set off the beginning of my sense of self or the perception I had of myself. So if I wasn't feeling worthy in the eyes of my parents, I must be unworthy of things, or like the good things I'm not worthy of. And there were some other experiences as well that in some ways left me wondering, because I had a sibling and I felt that she was tended to more, and it left me wondering, is she better than me? And it left a dark cloud over me, I think, over the years, and how I approached life and the things that I explored. And so, yeah, it was just reawakened at the time that my mom and my grandmother visited, that deep sense of unworthiness, like I'm not doing good by them in their eyes. So who am I really, if that's what they see? And there's a part of me that feels that's not who I am. But I have to like get down to the patterns and seeing how that's affected. And I've since also seen that sense of unworthiness was something that my mother carried as well. And she was maybe unintentionally trying to not pass that on, but because she didn't have awareness of her own patterns, she did pass that on, and it affected me. And then I even traced it further back to some things I've heard on my grandmother's side and how she was raised. And a deep sense of unworthiness was also coming from there. Like not feeling good enough as a woman, and seeking approval through having to look a certain way and then be accepted amongst the men, for example. So it's all like it's a pattern that's been passed down so far, and everybody's so unaware of it, but by the way they approach the belief systems they have, and then therefore tended to their children, left a mark. And I'm committed to ending that. I have two daughters of my own. I have 4 children total, but especially because it's a pattern that happens in the female side of my family, I'm committed to ending that and no longer passing on that sense of unworthiness or not being good enough or beautiful enough to be an acceptable human being.
I find it very interesting that you took and these are some of my favorite entrepreneurial stories, is when somebody takes maybe something that's happened to them or a challenge in their life, and it can be physical or like you're mentioning, or it can be even a product, right? When we're talking about entrepreneurship, it could be a product where somebody creates some app or tech product that solves a problem for them. So I think it's very interesting that you took your experience and then you've now turned that to also be able to help others through Liberated Heart, Empowered Soul. I guess getting further into the topic, educate us a little bit about the subconscious, really, and how you're helping people kind of tap into that and really their higher self. Like, how does that take place?
Well, yeah, so the subconscious mind is basically that part that gets programmed when we are children, basically from like 0 to age 7. And it gets programmed based on how we are tended to and perceived by our parents or caregivers and the world around us. So that's the basis of our sense of self and how we perceive ourselves in life. And the memories are stored there. Emotions can be stored there, especially like repressed emotions that we weren't able to or allowed to express at some point. And so, yeah, it's basically that part of our mind that is about 95% of what that functions and how we perceive the world. It's only 5% of our conscious mind that we utilize in our day-to-day life. So just knowing that, it's quite a bit of a process happening behind the scenes that we are not consciously aware of, but it's definitely affecting how we are, again, seeing what the world is like for us. And therefore also it differs from other people because they may have had other experiences forming that programming they live by and see things in a different way. So the subconscious mind holds all like the learned behaviors, emotional reactions, and the buried experiences that are collectively contributing to our subconscious patterns. And so if we are, for example, having challenges in self-confidence, feeling worthy enough, or feeling like we can't exert any willpower to trying to change behaviors, then it is most likely in the subconscious mind that is. It's kind of hard to tap into with this conscious willpower, but there are ways to do that. And it's often symbolic or through our emotions. So yeah, if we have like, let's say we feel triggered by something someone else does, the triggers are often it's an activation of a memory that we have stored deeply into our subconscious mind. So say, for example, I'm a parent, so I'll use that as an example. I have a kiddo that may accidentally drop a cup of milk on the floor. If that is triggering and we respond from the trigger as in getting mad at the child for like, why would you do that? And now it's a mess, you have to clean it up. Then we are responding from an experience that we may have had ourselves. Like maybe our parents may have reprimanded us in a less than harmonious way that felt painful. And so we are being reminded subconsciously from that experience and replaying out the same experience, which is subjective. So based in the past, not on what's happening here and now. So yeah, the trigger is reminding us of a similar experience that we've had. It may not be exactly the same, but just something that may have happened that we weren't able to process, like some emotion that we weren't able to process because we were reprimanded for it. And as a child looking at the parents, we want to be accepted. And at the root, it goes down to being able to survive. We rely on our parents for survival. So if our parents don't accept a certain expression of us or even an accident or something like that, or we have to store it deep, like, okay, we can't express this because a parent doesn't accept. We store that in our subconscious, and then that later comes out through our triggers.
And so how do you help people tap into that? Like, how do you help people tap into their subconscious to be able to kind of move past things, if you will?
So yeah, there are several techniques that I use. The first one is called muscle testing, and that is a technique that uses the muscle response based on like yes or no questions. So if you ask a question about if there is a particular emotion stored or trapped in the body that is contributing to a particular challenge, then you use muscle testing, and you can use that on the client's behalf by pressing their arm and feeling the response. Like if you press the arm and it goes down, it's not tense in that sense. So it basically means no. But if it says stop and the muscle doesn't move, then it's contracted, and that means yes. And then I go down a certain list of questions that kind of go down to the core issue and then find some emotions that are connected to that particular issue. And we work with that. And oftentimes the client will resonate with that. And I also go down to, sometimes it requires some more information, such as like, when did it first happen? Like an age? Is it connected to, is it a passed down emotion? Is it absorbed from like other people? Sometimes you have those people that are very sensitive to other people's emotions. They tend to absorb them. Like, maybe not sure if you've heard of empaths. They tend to absorb a lot of other people's emotions. So yeah, that all gets like stored in their subconscious, and it will affect us. But yeah, so muscle testing is a way to kind of connect with the subconscious mind to gather information and answers. And I also use a hypnosis technique, which is called QHHC, that was created by Dolores Cannon, which allows for the client to get completely relaxed. And that allows the conscious mind to kind of step down and the subconscious mind to come forth. We just want to get the conscious mind to be quiet because that's the part, the inner chatter and the analytical part. We want to get that one to like take a step to the side and have some information come forth from the subconscious mind. So I feel really relaxed. And even meditation can do that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the technique that I use to get clients in touch with their own subconscious mind and even a higher self.
That's interesting to me. And so when people come to you, they're looking to tap into their subconscious mind, and they're probably looking to move past something. Am I off on that?
No, not at all. Yes. When they come to me, they try to find some answers and clarity to what's going on for them, something they haven't been able to get to the bottom of, something that's just repetitive and not going away. And yeah, the techniques that I use with the modalities do offer the opportunity to get the clarity that they're seeking. And oftentimes the ahas allow also already for shifts, but then there are also some additional processes that I use to kind of like release the emotional blockages that help to create some more like an energy flow. So the repressed emotions and even negative belief systems, they block our ability to hear our own inner guidance, that's coming from our higher self, that helps us direct us into the ways that are most in alignment for ourselves. So having the ability to clear that stuck energy provides the opportunity for them to kind of finally go past that, what seemed to be like an invisible block or a mountain, and finally get to where they want to go, to make progress that cannot be achieved by willpower alone.
Well, what a win. I mean, I think it's a great story and one that I'm happy to bring to my audience, because moving past some of those blocks or some of those things that we don't even know that's holding us back, that may be in our subconscious or programmed or that we weren't even necessarily aware of, I find it highly interesting, and I think it's something that many people can benefit from. Bianca, we're about out of time for this episode, and I know we just kind of got into the topic, and I know you have much more to give. If somebody's listening to this and they want to follow up and they want to learn more about Liberated Heart, Empowered Soul, what's the best way for them to connect and reach out to you and your team?
Oh, yeah. So I have a website you can find on www.liberate2empower.com. And then I have both Instagram and Facebook with Liberated Heart, Empowered Soul.
Amazing. And just for everybody listening, just so we'll put the website, all that good stuff in the show notes. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, because this is a daily show. Each and every day we have new content, new guests, and hopefully new inspiration and tools that can help you along the way in your journey as well. If that sounds interesting to you and exciting, again, don't forget, hit that subscribe or that follow button, and so you'll get the notification tomorrow when the next episode comes out. And Bianca, wishing you the best of luck at the convention. I'm sure you're going to meet a lot of amazing people at the Women's Expo, and thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.